Okay, welcome everyone to the May update of the NeuralSeek changes. So a lot of new changes came in May. We're going to kind of step through the things that came through, and then as always, just going to spend most of the time here actually showing you these things live in the tool. If you have any questions at any point, throw them in the chat, and then we'll have a live Q&A at the end where you all can come off mute and ask any questions that you have. Okay, so starting off with the new features, the big ones that came in, one of the biggest was what we call virtual knowledge bases. So if you haven't played with our mAIstro platform, again, mAIstro is sort of our engine for connecting anything and everything up through large language models, including databases, flat files, all the connectors you could want in there. You can now define a mAIstro flow and then use it as a virtual knowledge base. And so I'm going to, of course, demo this to you. But it lets you do some pretty unique and powerful things. You could do easy things like go out and do like live web page scrapes, do Google searches, use like a local flat file. Some of what we're using this for is to merge structured and unstructured data, right? So pretty popular use case nowadays is to merge like an Elasticsearch query with a structured database query. So let's say I've got Watson Discovery and I want to merge that together with like a DB2 query. This virtual knowledge base will let you do that really easily. Squish together the results and then use that as the knowledge behind Seek, right? So feed that into a RAG flow, automatically, no code. Next on the list here is what we call the semantic allow list. So basically, it will let you override almost everything. So it'll let you override your terms that we have in the NeuralSeek HAP filter. It will let you override things that aren't explicitly called out in the document. Let's say your company has 2 or 3 names they go by, like an acronym, a normal name, and some others. You can put all of those into the allow list, and those won't be flagged anymore as a hallucination. So you get to define those pieces that you want to automatically push through. In curation, now we show you if an answer that was generated came with the use of a filter. So this was always one that was a little confusing for folks that were heavy filter users. And again, a lot of customers are using filtering with us to do a base level of customization in answers, right? So you would filter by, perhaps the location where the person sat in, the department they were in, to tailor an answer just for them. So it's sort of a base case of personalization. Inside of Curate, it was kind of hard to see, well, what location did this come from? Because when you talk about caching inside of NeuralSeek, the hash of the source is going to vary based on the filter. So matching that back in your mind when you're looking at how things are curated was always a little bit of a challenge. Now we show you what the filter was that generated that specific answer. So it's much easier to piece through which answers are going to be the cached responses and which aren't. Custom translations snuck in as well. So basically, when you're using the translate endpoint or other translate functions inside of NeuralSeek through LLMs, you can upload a custom translation file. And this will allow you to specify the way that you'd like words or phrases to be translated between languages. So really important for medical, financial, other, where you've got a specific way that you want to say things in each language. You can upload that translation file and we will use it under the covers for all the translation use cases. Big ones in mAIstro. So we became multimodal, right? So you can use images now in mAIstro flows, assuming that you're using a large language model in there that supports images. We'll pull images automatically and process them for you from web, local file, Google Docs, or you can pass the base64 image through whatever method you want outside of that. There's now an auto builder for mAIstro, and of course, I'm going to demo this one. So basically, it's a template builder for anything. You're going to come in with just a sentence or two of what you want to build in mAIstro, and then we'll generate a template for you to do that. Many cases, the template may work exactly out of the box and you'll just run with it. In others, you may need to do mild customization to make it exactly what you want, but it'll take you 90% there. Over the last few weeks, we've been beta testing this one pretty intensely. Nowadays, with customer POCs, we just use the auto builder, tell it what folks want to build, and then we've shaved tons of time off our mAIstro builds with this. Bunch of new connectors as well. Snowflake connector, and then Neo4j connector coming soon, probably end of the week. On the governance side, there's a whole new module called Token Insights, and I'm going to demo that to you. Cost insights around your model usage, token generation speed, comparisons to other LLMs. This one is for BYO LLM plans only, of course, right? If you're using our out-of-the-box model, you don't need to know anything about tokens because we handle that for you. We also now show you cache and edit and answer hit percentage. A bunch of new models coming in, the big ones, GPT-4 Omni, right, which is very powerful. mAIstro 8x22, which is a nice incremental step over the original mAIstro model. And then a bunch of smaller models for individual languages came in as well. Okay, I'm going to dive into the demo now and start showing you some of these features. Okay, so we're going to start with the virtual knowledge base. And so that is set up inside of Configure. So you would come into your knowledge base connection, and out of the list of knowledge bases that we support, which is getting pretty long now, you would select virtual knowledge base, right? And once you do, you want to make sure that you have a mAIstro template saved that's set up for virtual knowledge base, and it will show up in the pick list here. And here's how you build it in mAIstro. Let me open back up my template. We called it virtual. There's two new nodes, and they come in underneath RAG tools, virtual KB in and out. And so the first one is a bit of a magic node. It gives you a bunch of variables to use inside of your flow. The most useful one probably the context query. So this is the NeuralSeek enhanced query. So taking what the user said, enhanced with context, keeping, making it a query that is directly usable, right? So if somebody asks a follow-on question like, tell me more about it, it will automatically turn it into the thing that the person was talking about. So your query just works. So in this pretty basic example, I'm doing two live web page polls, right? The first one, I'm going to do a raw Google search. So I'm going to Google search and then drop in that context query as the Google search. And then for the second part of it, I'm going to do a static pull of the NeuralSeek documentation, right? Because my Seek tab here is going to be a Q&A for NeuralSeek, right? So having these two together should provide me a decent realm of information around it. These will be pulled live, right? So every time a Seek comes in, these will come out dynamically in parallel, scrape those two pages, and then dump it right back into the Seek process. This last node here, the virtual KB output, this is what pipes back into Seek. So you get to define the trusted information. This is going to come back as the passage that we found. And then you can set, if you have it, the coverage and confidence score that you rate for these things. In my example here, I've just hard-coded those. You could use math, you could use anything that you want to derive the scores that you want to put inside of here. And likewise, you could, if you want, pass along a URL and a document name. And these could be dynamic, coming from variables that you define as you roll through. So once you save that, and again, you map it over on the config side, well, here's how it looks, right? So I'm going to ask a question. What is the primary use case for NeuralSeek? And it's going to go, and behind the scenes, it's pulling those two web pages live, and then injected that back in the Seek process. And you can see it happens pretty quick, right? So total response time, 3.8 seconds. Here is what it pulled, right? So here's the virtual KB response. You can see the top was pretty much the Google, and then the bottom was pulled from the NeuralSeek documentation website. And it looks like it used a little bit of both. And again, everything works as per normal. It's just the virtual knowledge base came from, in this case, a dynamic web scrape. And it could be a knowledge base plus that. It could be a database lookup. Anything inside of mAIstro is up for grabs when you're using this. And we do give you an example template here, virtual KB, which is actually the demo I just showed you. And you could use this to start playing with, right? I could throw like a database connection in here and say, I want three things. And in this case, I want to go first to the database and then come out to the virtual KB and add this one in. So it's really easy to snap these things in together and create some really compelling virtual knowledge bases to use inside of Seek that combine lots of different information. Okay, next up, the semantic allow list. So let me show you that one real quick. Over inside of configure, underneath governance and guardrails, there's a new option in semantic model tuning. And this is the block here that's words or phrases to always allow in responses. So again, this one is pretty much as it seems. You drop in the word or phrase you want, and then it will no longer be flagged for either HAP or unattributed key terms or unattributed terms. They will be trusted words that come in. This has popped up in a few different client engagements where they may have a product acronym that's also potentially a HAP term, right? So some interesting acronyms, things like that. Or again, I've got three different names for my company and people use them interchangeably. I can only put one of them up inside of company organization. I need to allow for all of them to be trusted. You can do that right here as well. Okay, curate updates allowing the filter to be used. Okay, so this one I'm going to show you here. So inside of curate, right, I've got a question that I asked around data stage in this instance. And you can see when I use a filter, right, and so this is the question I asked. Here's the filter I ran, text data stage, and I generated this answer, with that filter. As that flows through, and just hit the cache because I have cache set to 1. When I come back and curate, it will tell me the exact filter that was used to generate this answer, which will give me as a subject matter expert a little bit more insight about like why this answer is exactly what it is. And maybe like, why didn't it include anything about like quality stage? Well, I filtered only by data stage, and this is why, this answer was here. So a bit more insight. Okay, let's talk about mAIstro. So heading back into this instance, we've got an example template up here for inspecting an image. And basically what this one, this example, I'm going to pull down from actually the NeuralSeek website, the logo, right? It's our PNG logo that's up on our main homepage. And then I'm going to send it out to a language model. And so instead of what is this picture of, I'm going to ask something a little bit more in depth. This is picture a good logo for a product called NeuralSeek. And then I'm going to make sure I select a model here that does images. So I'll do GPT-4 Omni, and we'll let it fly. So then it will scrape the image and tell me the answer. And here it goes. So kind of cool. And I guess kudos to our marketing folks because GPT-4 likes our logo as a logo for a company. Simplicity, modern look, kind of a cool answer. Okay. And again, for this, right, the magic kind of comes here. In the call to the LLM, you get to stuff in your image, and we'll use that dynamically with it with any prompting. You could You have, again, multiple chains of these LLMs. So if you need to do a couple images, you would just have a couple LLM nodes, and you can send them all through. This will work out of the box with upload a file, Google Drive, pretty much the normal ways that you would get an image in a PNG, GIF, JPEG, all the normal formats, and then send it off. Kind of coming soon after this, our document extractors, right? So we have extractors for Word docs, PDFs, CSVs, Excels. Those are going to be updated so that when you upload those files, today we extract the text from those and drop it in here. In vNext, we're actually going to be helping to also be able to extract images from those files. So you can have like a mixed mode file where text and images, and then send all of that through the LLM. So you could have the document talking about the image, and things will flow. So that will be coming probably in version next or next plus one. Again, a lot of changes when it comes to that, especially if you're talking about like a 100-page PDF with thousands of images. The big thing that we're working on is making that easy for a mAIstro designer to be able to control, right? Because like, what image are you talking about? How does it flow? So a lot of that's going to come in with some of the functions like we have around split and document understanding, so that you can focus on the page and the images that you want and not have to think a lot about trimming that document down. We'll just advance to the right section. Okay, the auto builder. This one, like I talked about, it's really cool. So let's play with it a little bit. So I'm going to come back here. You get to the auto builder in one of two ways. If you haven't done anything in mAIstro and you land on the page, you'll get the welcome prompt, and it's right here. If you happen to be inside of mAIstro and you've got something done, anytime you hit the load button, it'll be here. This is SaaS only, right? So if you've got NeuralSeek on-prem, this option won't be here for you, but anyone on a SaaS plan, it's there. So I came up with an interesting one this morning. So I was kind of thinking as I was reading the news, I want to grab the news from Fox News and MSNBC, summarize and compare their coverages, and then create a list of key points excluded from each of their coverage. And so all you do, just something like this, right? And then hit generate template. And NeuralSeek is going to go out. It's going to take those sentences and figure out an NTL flow, a mAIstro flow to do it. And here it is, right? So this is probably like exactly what I would have built myself. So in parallel, right, it's scraping Fox News and MSNBC.com, sending it through the NeuralSeek summarizer to trim it down a bit, and then giving a nice LLM prompt. And at this point, you can use any model you want. So I'll roll with GPT-3.5 here, and then maybe I'll do Llama. And then here it is. It's just working, right? So I did about no work whatsoever. And then my work here is done. And let's try it with Llama. So Llama a little bit slower. So again, this one is a great one to really cut down on time of building inside of mAIstro. Or if you're a brand new mAIstro user, to help get over that hump of like, how do I build in here? How do I snap these things together? I'll give you another example here. We did a POC like last week. And basically for the POC, all we did was we dropped the exact text the customer gave us of what they wanted to do in. So extract capability statements as a first cut for some analyst reviews, given a document, so pretty straightforward. I want to compare two documents and highlight the differences. So let's generate that template and let's see what mAIstro comes up with. And a little bit more complicated here, but again, it's snapped together pretty much what I would have built as a first round. Um, and then, when I go to evaluate, it knows I need two documents. I've uploaded two documents. We can just throw them in. One, yeah. And we can roll with it. And it's probably going to work right out of the box. And then from here, all I would do with my focus is probably just tweak this a little bit. And I could take my build time inside of the tool from days or hours down to minutes, right? Because it's just like so much easier to build these things inside of here now. And this is going to run through, and it is doing two of these in parallel, right? And so we'll see when Llama's finally done, it will snap together, and then all of this stuff will flow correctly. Take a few minutes. It's still building. Okay, cool, and it's done. So actually, Llama gave me a great add and remove list. So pretty much exactly what I told it. I mean, I'd call this POC done, and it took me I don't know 15 seconds to type the sentence, and then 30 seconds to run the whole thing. And yeah, we're done. So pretty powerful stuff here now in Maestro. Okay, a couple new nodes have come in as well. So again, we're incrementally increasing the capability of Maestro. On the database connections, now we've got a Snowflake dedicated connector, and then Neo4j should be hitting production here end of the week. So again, lots of different options, lots of power here for connecting to really anything that you want to do, bringing it in, either using it as part of a RAG flow, document generation, summarization, merging, anything inside of here. Really quick, really powerful. Okay, let's start talking about governance. So we've got a whole new module that came into NeuralSeek governance, and we call it Token Insights. So as we get in, so Token Insights is going to look primarily at the seek process for right now, but in future releases, we're going to include things coming through Maestro as well. For Token Insights, right, we kind of start out at the top with total tokens and total token costs. So behind the scenes, we've taken all of the public pricing for all of the models that we support and put it in the system so we know what the costing is. In our next release, we're going to allow you to override pricing, right? Because some customers will have custom pricing or discounts that they apply to certain models and not others. So we're going to allow for you to modify the pricing for your specific use case. But for right now, for this release, it's based on public data. And you can kind of see, some interesting things popped up to us just as we were building this of, as the models have really increased in capability and context window over the last few months, you can get seeks that are taking lots and lots of tokens, right? So like in my test instance here, which I didn't run tons of queries through, but I had seeks that were using 38,000 tokens on the input for the RAG. And on average, 15,000, 16,000, which is quite a bit. The answers are really impressive when you're doing this, but then you have to watch cost, right? Because the ratio of input to generation token to cost, right? Input cost is like 10x, 100x of what the generation cost is. And so finding that line between what is the minimum required input tokens to get the minimum acceptable answers coming out of the system so that I'm not necessarily spending 38,000 tokens every time. Maybe I can get by with 4,000 or 8,000 and still get pretty good answers. That will really drive down your cost. And this charting will help you track how you're doing towards that goal. Then some additional metrics here. So generated tokens per seek, how big are my answers coming back? Total cost per 1,000 seeks. This was another interesting one for us. In this test instance, we jumped between a couple different models. And as we switch between models at the high end, right, when we were throwing these maximum amount of tokens out, about $200 per 100 seeks at the LLM cost layer. As we averaged out between all the different models we used, about $40. And then token generation speed. Again, each one of these models have a different generation speed. You can kind of track to see how it's doing. Again, a great metric for, are my answers going to work for the use case that I'm doing, right? So if I want very long answers and I'm going to be streaming to a chat bot, probably the model that has good answers and the highest generation speed is going to be the most acceptable to the end users. If you're doing things in bulk, maybe the generation speed doesn't matter so much and you can just focus on lowering cost. Okay, next up here is another fun and impressive one called the model cost comparison. And so what we do is we take the models that you're using. And again, I primarily used one model, but you can see here I tried for a few other smaller models. But basically, we rank capabilities of models based on open source metrics, right? So we look at HelloSwag and some of the other metrics out there. And then we rate every LLM that we have on their capability level. Then we know the pricing of all these models as well. And so we can create a chart like this that shows the model that you're using and the cost associated with it, and then bracket around it similar models in capability in ascending order, right? So you've got Llama 3, Haiku, GPT-4, Sonnet, and then their respective pricings. So you can see, okay, well, here's what I'm doing today and here's what I'm paying. But maybe I should consider a move to a different model because the pricing is just way better on those models. So it gives you a good visual of saying, okay, if I step down a little bit in capability, I could save maybe 90% in cost. So we should try that, right? Because I'm cost focused. For these other models, I didn't really use them enough to generate anything fun yet. But if I switch to them and over time, this would build more and more. And then lastly, tokens over time. As I switch through models, I can zoom into the chart here and see how my generation's doing, input and output, how long did they take? In these cases, like some of the things were bouncing up in time a bit. So I can track the health of the model, the speed of the generation, get some interesting visual sites of what models are folks inside of my instance using and how are they performing. Okay, another new one that came in is in Semantic Insights here. Now we monitor cache hit percentage. So as you're coming through and using caching inside of NeuralSeek, you can see overall, how am I responding with answers? Are most coming from live generation or most coming from cache? Are my SMEs using edited answers and are those being pitched back to users? Okay, and then new models. So inside of NeuralSeek, we've got a bunch of new models that did come in. You can kind of browse through all the different providers we support. So folks like mixtral 8x22, that's a pretty powerful one on the open source side. Definitely a nice logical step up from the original 8x7 billion instruct. Not earth-shattering, but definitely better. So that's available today via Hugging Face and Together. Inside of Watson X, there's a bunch of smaller models that came in for specific language pairings like Elisa and Jais for Arabic and Japanese, respectively. So overall, quite a few models inside the platform now, a lot of different options to jump around and then be able to swap between. Again, behind the scenes of NeuralSeek, we handle all of the model prompting, all of the model weighting for you. So if you want to swap between models to test it out, it literally is as easy as just coming into your model cards and saying, I want to use, let's say Granite instead of GPT-4, and turning one off and one on and saving, and then you're done. Likewise, you could use the new proposed changes to try lots of different versions. So I could save a different proposal for each model. And then when I come into Seek, use those. So I can try Mixtral and Llama 13 and run through. And my SMEs could say, hey, I like this one better for these use cases and this one better for those use cases. And you can get into those complicated pairings of driving a model based on the use that you need for it. Okay, that takes us mostly through the new use cases that we had. Let me just look through. Oh, last one. Inside of our managed offerings, right? So if you've got a NeuralSeek Paper Answer, a NeuralSeek Lite plan, there is a new managed LLM that you can swap to. So this kind of came out 2 or 3 weeks ago now. All new instances of NeuralSeek Paper Answer or Lite are using the V2 model by default. You can swap back to the V1 model if you want. You just come in under the Manage LLM details. You can swap between V1 and V2 and just hit the blue button here, and you'll swap between them. V2 is better, in my opinion, and faster. Okay, that brings me through all of the core updates that I had. I'll take a pause here. Any questions in the chat? Anyone want to come off mute and ask a question?